So, uh, have you ever really stopped to wonder what makes someone join a group that, well, gets labeled a terrorist organization?
Yeah.
It's a tough question, right? Gets right to the core of these really difficult, long-running conflicts. Today, that's exactly what we're doing. We're taking a deep dive into that whole world, the mechanics,
Mm.
really, behind how these groups recruit people, how they build that loyalty, and how they create these forces that just
Yeah.
last. And look, our aim here is to understand the how, not to judge. We want to get past the headlines, see how belief and maybe desperation build something so resilient. We're grounding this whole discussion in Chapter 2 of Albert Heddy's book, Shadow Soldiers,
Yeah.
Iran's Global Proxy Strategy. So let's dig in.
Yeah, and what really jumps out from the source material is just how deliberate this all is. It's not haphazard. When you look at, say, the IRGC, Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, and their proxies across the Middle East, even further out, it's a very calculated process.
Calculated how? What are they actually doing?
Well, they're blending things, you know. They mix religion, ideology, practical stuff like money, and that deep human need to, well, belong somewhere. It's a potent cocktail.
Okay, so multiple angles. You mentioned religion. How does something like, say, religious authority fit into this? Is it central?
Oh, absolutely critical. Hadi points to a really key moment. Back in 2010, Ayatollah Khamenei issues this fatwa, right, a religious ruling.
Okay.
And in it, he declares himself the earthly deputy of the Prophet Muhammad and the hidden 12th Imam. Now, for believers, that's huge. It basically makes obeying him a sacred duty.
Wow. So following orders becomes an act of faith.
Exactly. And it means even really brutal actions can be framed as, quote, holy duties. Fighters are led to believe God sanctions what they're doing. It weaves the cause into their spiritual identity, making disloyalty feel like, well, like a sin, not just changing sides.
That's an incredibly powerful tool for control and justification. But is that always enough? Does the source talk about, the practical side? How does this religious angle mix with, say, day-to-day survival?
Right. It's not just the spiritual, though. That's a massive part. The source makes it clear that the IRGC's Quds Force, their external operations arm, is very strategic about where they recruit. They intentionally go into impoverished areas.
Their opportunities are scarce.
Precisely. Places like Afghanistan, Pakistan, Yemen, parts of Africa, too. And this is crucial because, let's face it, when you're struggling just to feed your family, your priorities can shift. Desperation opens doors.
That's a really sobering point, leveraging basic human need. So they identify this vulnerability, this economic desperation. What do they actually offer these people? What's the deal?
It's tangible stuff, real promises. They offer salaries, proper housing, and this is a big one, education for the recruits' children.
For the family, that's key.
Absolutely. So for a lot of these individuals, the choice to join isn't purely ideological. It's often just as much about basic survival, about finding a way to provide, maybe even finding a community, a sense of belonging they didn't have before.
And the source gives examples of this.
Yeah, Hadi mentions specific units formed this way. The Fatemian Brigade, mainly recruited from Afghans, and the Zainabiyan Brigade, mostly Pakistanis. These groups are kind of built on that foundation of need.
Okay, so the initial hook might be economic, or at least partly economic.
Yeah.
You mentioned loyalty earlier. How do they move beyond just a paycheck? How do they make it stick, make people truly committed?
Right, because the money might get you in the door, but ideology is what keeps you there and keeps you fighting. Recruitment isn't just a sign-up sheet. It's an ongoing process.
Ongoing how? Training.
Intensive training, yeah. Both military and religious. This isn't just about learning to shoot straight. It's about deep indoctrination. It's designed to fuse obedience to the supreme leader, loyalty to Iran, and their own religious identity into one inseparable thing.
So the training itself reinforces the ideology.
Completely. It makes their role, their fighting, part of their very being, their faith. And that's what builds that incredible resilience you see in these groups. It goes way beyond just employment.
So if we try to boil it down then, based on everything we've discussed from the source, what are the main, maybe like top 3 reasons someone actually joins?
Hadi really breaks it into 3 core drivers. First, ideology. Simple as that sometimes. They're genuinely drawn to the worldview, the idea of a holy struggle. It gives meaning, purpose.
Okay, belief.
What else? Second, psychology and identity. People are looking for belonging, for status, maybe purpose they haven't found elsewhere. This is especially true if they feel marginalized or, powerless in their regular lives. These groups offer a powerful
Yeah.
identity.
A sense of belonging, yeah. And the third,
And third, what we've been talking about, economic need. In places with no jobs, no prospects, these organizations step into that void. They offer a livelihood, security for the family. It's a powerful combination, heating on belief, identity, and basic needs.
it really covers all the bases. And it seems like they're also really good at tapping into deeper cultural currents, like history.
Oh, absolutely. This is where groups like Hezbollah, but also others Hadi mentions, like Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Hamas, they're incredibly skilled at this. They weave recruitment into existing religious stories and historical grievances.
Making it feel like part of a larger story.
Exactly. They link it to ideas of honor, sacrifice, community. And once you're embedded in that narrative, leaving becomes incredibly hard, almost like betraying your own history, your own people.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. Hadi mentions how they draw parallels between today's conflicts and really significant, deeply revered historical events like the Battle of Karbala and Shia Islam. Doing that makes the current fight feel monumental, historic, divinely sanctioned even. It elevates the call to arms way beyond just politics.
So it's not just a job, it's a destiny, almost. And they promise rewards for fulfilling this destiny, both here and maybe in the hereafter.
Both, definitely. It's a very clever dual promise. Spiritually, the big one is martyrdom. They're told martyrs get instant access to paradise, and they can even intercede for their families, pull them in too, essentially.
Wow, that's a powerful motivator.
Immense. It offers ultimate meaning and solace. But then there's the temporal side, the worldly promises, guarantees of financial support for the family left behind, housing, benefits. They cover the immediate practical worries too.
So it takes care of your soul and your family's well-being.
Exactly. And that combination, it creates an incredibly strong psychological bond. Loyalty to the group, to the mission becomes tied up with everything: faith, family, future, afterlife. It's a very comprehensive package of assurance.
Looking at all this, the calculation, the mix of ideology and need, the historical framing, it really paints a picture of how these groups become so persistent. What does this tell us about why they're so hard to deal with on a global scale?
Well, it tells us that these recruitment dynamics create organizations that are incredibly resilient and also adaptable. The ideology isn't usually some rigid, brittle thing. It's often flexible enough to allow groups like Hezbollah or Al-Qaeda, as the source suggests, to survive major setbacks.
They can reframe things.
Yeah, they adapt their narrative, shift focus, stay relevant, even when under huge pressure. And that brings us to the core issue, really. It's the ideas, the sense of identity and belonging, maybe even more than the weapons or the money, that give these groups their staying power.
Which makes countering them incredibly complex.
Profoundly challenging, yes. How do you fight an idea? How do you counter something built so deeply on belief, on community, on this powerful sense of purpose, even if it's one we find abhorrent? It's not just a military problem.
And that really brings our deep dive for today to a close. We've journeyed into how these organizations meticulously build loyalty, how they weave together potent ideology, sometimes stark desperation, and that fundamental human need for connection, creating these powerful proxy forces that undeniably shape global events. So maybe something to think about if you've ever wondered how nations can wage these kinds of covert wars or why certain groups seem to endure against all odds. Perhaps this look into the shadows sheds some light on just how deeply tangled our basic human needs can become with these vast global strategies and these conflicts that seem to never end.